Mist-filled valleys, sweeping steppes, bustling urban centers, dense tropical forests, isolated villages, and of course majestic snow-capped mountain ranges. People's lives intersect in a diverse range of places in the Himalayan region, and those places play an important role in the development of Himalayan art and cultures. The Tibetan Plateau, a region of fertile valleys surrounded by towering mountains, has long been an important crossroads for trade and the spread of religious and artistic traditions. Tibet shares cultural connections with the Indian subcontinent to the west, Nepal and Bhutan to the south, Chinese regions to the east, and Mongolian regions to the northeast. Throughout this part of the world, the enduring legacy of Tibetan Buddhism is evident in art, culture, and religious practices. During the 7th and 9th centuries, Tibetan rulers expanded their empire and gained control of important trade routes, including the famous Silk Roads. Since then, Tibetan rulers, teachers, artists, translators, and laypeople have introduced their Buddhist culture to neighboring regions. As the cradle of Buddhism, northeastern India was and remains an important region for Buddhist pilgrimage. Sacred sites in this part of India include Bodh Gaya, where the Buddha is believed to have reached awakening under the Bodhi tree, and prominent centers of learning such as Nalanda Monastery. Until the 13th century, Buddhists in India produced sculptures, mementos from sacred sites, texts, and other objects, which teachers, translators, visiting monks, traders, and pilgrims would carry back to their homelands. West of Tibet lies Kashmir, a cultural region whose fertile valleys are nestled amongst some of the highest ranges of the Western Himalayas. Kashmir has long been home to kingdoms revered for Buddhist learning, arts, and cultures. Many Tibetan and Himalayan Buddhists traveled to Kashmir to study esoteric or tantric Buddhist traditions, and it was a significant destination on trade routes that connected Western and Central Asia. South of Tibet, nestled within the Greater Himalayas and the Mahabharat Mountains, lies Nepal, a major center of Buddhist culture. In the Himalayan kingdoms of the Kathmandu Valley, Buddhist culture continued to thrive after its decline in India, as Tibetans came in search of teachers and instruction in tantric practice. Newar artisans, famed for their painting and craftsmanship in metal, stone, and wood, have always been held in high regard by Tibetan patrons for their skill and willingness to travel. In Nepal, Hindu and Buddhist cultures coexist. Nepalese kings sponsored Hindu and Buddhist religious sites, and the same artists often produced images for both communities, creating a shared visual culture that continues today. East of Nepal and between Tibet and northeastern India lies Bhutan, a small region whose terrain ranges from the cold and barren Greater Himalayas in the north to hot, humid subtropical plains in the south. Buddhism flourished in Bhutan around the same time as the Tibetan Plateau, and in the 17th century, Bhutan officially became a Buddhist kingdom. Despite being separated by great distances, common lineages of Kagyu Buddhist traditions have helped maintain close ties between Bhutan and communities in the Western Himalayas and Central Tibet. In Central Asia, traveling merchants, monks, pilgrims, locals, and even armies of various empires met and mixed along trade routes, such as the Silk Roads, that connected Asia with the West. Among this region's deserts, mountains, and rugged terrain, oasis centers allowed for the exchange of diverse visual traditions, belief systems, and languages. Murals, statues, and texts found in famous locations such as Karakoto and the caves at Dunhuang and Yulin testify to these rich cross-regional and cultural connections. Northeast of the Tibetan Plateau lie Mongolian regions. This area of open steppes bordered by the Altai Mountains and Gobi Desert, encompasses modern Mongolia and parts of contemporary Russia and China. Mongols have long played a key role in Tibetan culture and politics and Tibetan relations with China. In the 13th century, the Mongols conquered most of Asia, building the largest contiguous empire in world history and facilitating the spread of Tibetan Buddhism by connecting cultural centers across the continent. Buddhism had long been established in Chinese regions to the east of Tibet. Beginning in the 13th century, rulers in China used the ideas of Tibetan Buddhism to support their rule over the multi-ethnic populace of their vast domain and declare their legitimacy to neighboring regions. Imperial centers such as Beijing and Mount Wutai became hubs of Tibetan Buddhist cultural production, and Tibetan Buddhist monuments engraved into the landscape signified imperial rule. Spanning the greater Himalayan mountain range, the Tibetan Plateau, and connected areas of Inner Asia, Himalayan cultures extend across extraordinarily diverse landscapes that are often challenging for communication, travel, and prosperity. Nevertheless, pilgrimage, trade, and political expansion have made this part of the world an important crossroads connecting South, Central, and East Asia, allowing diverse cultural spheres and artistic traditions to thrive for thousands of years. For more on the cultural regions that encompass the Himalayan region and culturally connected regions of Inner Asia, and the artworks featured in this video, please visit rubinmuseum.org.